Hello and welcome. Can you tell us something about the American school system?
The education is divided into 3 levels. You have the elementary school, the middle school, sometimes called junior high school, and high school, sometimes referred to as secondary education.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something more?
Yeah, about approximately 85% of the students enter the public schools, largely because they are tax subsidized.
Oh,
so it's
interesting.
cheap.
Nice.
Is it obligated to attend school?
Yeah, the ages for compulsory education varies by state. It begins from ages 5 to 8 and it ends from ages 14 to 18. In the year 2000, approximately 76.6 million students were enrolled in the school system from kindergarten to graduate schools.
More than $500 billion is spent each year on public primary and secondary education.
Go girl!
How many school districts are there?
There are about 14,000 school districts in the American states. Parents may also choose to educate their own children at home. 1.7% of children are educated in this manner.
Well, hello there. Do you want to know some about the history of the American education system? Yeah, I thought so too. Hundreds of years ago, most learning happened at home. Parents taught their children, or if the families could afford it, private tutors did the job. The Puritans were the first in this country to point out the need for some kind of public education. They established schools to teach just not the essentials reading, writing and math, but also to reinforce their core values. After the American Revolution, Thomas Jefferson argued that the newly independent nation needed an educational system, and he suggested that tax dollars should be used to fund it. His pleas were ignored, however, and the idea for a public school system languished for nearly a century. By the 1840s, a few public schools had popped up around the country in the communities that could afford them. However, that smattering of schools wasn't good enough for education crusaders Horace Mann of Massachusetts and Henry Barnard of Connecticut. They began calling for free compulsory school for every child in the nation. Massachusetts and New York were the first to get free compulsory education in 1852. In 1914, all American children were required to finish at least elementary school. But there was still one big problem. The quality of the education were not equal for all. And not until 1954, children of all races were allowed to enter public school.
Mitt Romney from the Republican Party believes that the long-term strategy for getting America's economy back on track is to ensure a world-class education for American students. He says that the global competitiveness begins in the classroom, and in order to achieve this goal, students must have the skills to succeed in the workforce, ensuring that the promise of opportunity in the country remains strong.
President Obama has a vision for U.S. education. He believes that in order to prepare Americans for the jobs of the future, we have to restore middle-class security and we have to educate the world, and that starts with a strong school system.
One of the propositions from the Republican Party for this year's election is something called the Early Graduation Achievement Act, the EGAA, which basically means that if you finish high school early, you will get cash from the state, from the United States. For example, if you finish all your high school studies midway through your junior year, you will be awarded $7,500. And if you finish your studies midway through your senior year, you will be awarded $2,500 and so on. So the earlier you finish your studies, the more cash you will get.
Ching.
President Obama has expanded support to help more students afford college, while calling for a shared responsibility in tackling rising costs. He has also, together with the Democratic Party, called to make college tax deductible in order to have more students go on to higher education.
The Republicans also want to shift to community colleges and to technical institutions, because today over 50% of the recent college grads are underemployed or unemployed. They are working at jobs which their expensive education gave them no training for. So what we want to do with this is to give experience and training for the working life for the students in college. They also want no federal college loans. They just want to ensure the private loans for every student.
Members of the Democratic Party have been far less inclined to support school prayer than the Republican brethren, with the majority of the party strongly aligned against it. One faction within the Democratic Party, however, has included some divergent members who favor an amendment to allow prayer in public school. These are Southern conservatives.
The Republicans, on the other hand, they are more positive to religion in school. For example, they strongly support voluntary student-initiated prayer.
Okay. Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.